America. On today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we ask the question, why don't most local politicians want you to know where they're spending their money?
Could it be they're trying to buy secret gifts for their citizens to surprise their taxpayers? They don't want anyone to know about what they're going to get, before they open up the gift.
The question was rhetorical. It's meant for everybody to ponder upon the question, not for you to specifically answer it.
Oh, thank you for clarifying. I really appreciate that, because I didn't really know the answer. I didn't know. I didn't want to sound stupid.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
On today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, we interview Mayor Craig Thurmond.
Who's that?
About why most local governments don't want you to know where they're spending your money.
Okay.
And why your local government is either for you or against you.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go! Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, and yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a laser show because you're going to get a chance to hear from the actual mayor of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Now, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma is one of the fastest growing cities in these great United States. And Mayor Craig Thurmond, how long have you been the mayor of this great state, or this great city of Broken Arrow?
I've been the mayor for 8 years. I've been on the council for 19.
Now, I was keeping track. I got a little spreadsheet going here. How much money have you been paid since you've been the mayor?
0.
Zero?
We don't get paid.
If you round that up, what Devin, I think, Devin, you're taking the notes here today. If you round up 0 for how many years?
Well, 8 years the mayor, 19 on the council. So for 19 years, basically, it's been 0.
So, Devin, for 19 years and 0 a year, if you round that up, what does that come out to?
I think it's still 0.
Wow. What? Now, one would ask, listeners out there were probably asking, why? Well, I know you well enough. I know people who know you well enough to know that you're doing this because you are, you feel called to do this. You are yes. A civil servant is what I would say. Can you please explain why you feel called to be the mayor of Broken Arrow for the low price? By the way, it's a great deal by the way. For the low price of $0, why do you feel called to be our mayor?
Well, I think it's important because we get the opportunity to make a difference in people's life, and that's what we do. We're making a difference in people's life, and so you're serving your community, you're making a difference in people's life, and that's not something that many people get the opportunity to do. But I've had that opportunity, and we do make a difference, and just being able to lead and be able to do things different, and try to get business, support business, get business to grow. Create public safety, do all the great things that we do in our community. It's really important that we just continue doing that.
Mayor, a little pop quiz. I'm not going to paint you into a corner here. I just want to ask you. This is just, again, we're going to ask you some tough questions to start off here, okay? The word traction. The word traction. If you had to describe the word traction, what it means to you, if someone says, I'm gaining traction, I'm getting traction, what do you think that means from you're a mayor, you're more educated than I am, I'm sure. What does the word traction mean to you?
Well, I mean, you go back to a vehicle, and it's when you get traction, when your tires actually grip. And when someone's getting traction in business, they're actually getting a grip and getting a start on something, and people are listening to them, and things are going good for them. They're getting traction. So, I mean, that's my definition of traction.
Now, how would you define the word distraction?
Well, that's more or less when you're distracted, when you're not paying attention, when you're not getting traction, and you're distracted from what you're trying to do.
There's a phrase people throw out a lot. They say someone's either for you or against you.
That's true.
Can you please explain why a local government, whether it be Broken Arrow or whatever city, why they are either for you or against you? Like, explain what it means to be, in your mind, pro-business. What does it mean to be for business?
I think so often that bureaucracies, and we see it even in lots of areas, and my day job is working in land development business, so I see it in other communities, even around our metro, where cities are really, it's you versus them. They have this attitude that it's you versus them, But the way we look at it in Broken Arrows, we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
We're trying to, so business is helping us, and we're trying to help business. But the best thing government can do is just get out of your way and let you do business. So as much as possible, we try to stay out of people's way so they can do business and so they can grow and so they can do the things that are important to them.
So in Broken Arrow, I'm going to just contrast Broken Arrow to Tulsa. And I'm going to quote other people. I'm not going to quote myself. I'm going to quote other people.
Okay.
Aaron Antis heads up Shaw Homes, which is the largest home building company in Oklahoma. And he has told me on this show, when you were present, also when you have not been present, he has told me that it is somewhere between 5 and 10 times easier or 5 or 10 times more efficient to get approval to build neighborhoods in Broken Arrow versus the city of Tulsa. So Aaron Antis, who is not he's not a member of your staff, Aaron Antis, who runs ShawHomes.com, who is certainly not a member of your staff. Aaron Antis, who is a man who makes money. The more houses he sells, the more money he makes. So his bias is to sell more houses. He has told me it is somewhere between 5 and 10 times easier, or 5 or 10 times more efficient to build homes in Broken Arrow than it is in Tulsa. And I said, Aaron, why? Why? And he says, well, the mayor of Tulsa, or the city of Tulsa, the government of Tulsa, has all these very difficult processes you have to go through to get approved to build something, and Broken Arrow does not have these things. So please explain to me your view on regulation as it relates to impeding a business's ability to sell goods and services to their potential customers.
Well, I think it's really important, when you say it's 5 or 10 times more efficient, that also means that it's 5 or 10 times cheaper to do business because time is money and all those processes cost money. You have to have someone to deal with those. So we do our best to try to stay out of people's way, to make things more efficient, to know what the rules are. Our concept is try to help people get to yes instead of tell them no. A lot of cities, the first thing they do is they tell you no. You're not going to get a permit. You got to do this. You got to do that. This isn't right. This isn't correct. And I don't know of a lot of communities. I know that no one has ever gotten their permit. And I know my experience has been that in some areas in our area, you don't get a permit right away. Your first answer is always going to be no. What we try to strive for in our community is our first answer needs to be yes. This is how we're going to do it. This is what you have to do, and this is how we're going to get there. And we see it as a partner. Business is a partner to the community because when business makes money, the community makes money. So it's important that a city and a community tries to support business. Everyone that lives here, all of our citizens have a job.
Yes.
And it's important, or most of them have jobs, and it's important that we try to promote those jobs and we try to get those citizens working and having money. We all have a job and we want to keep that job. So it's important that we work with business.
Now, regulation. You could either try to help people get a yes, to get approval to open up that business or
Right.
to zone that land or whatever that looks like, or you could be a no. You're either for the citizens or you're against them.
Right. That's true.
And a lot of politicians would try to trick you into believing, or would tell you to believe, that they're kind of, they're in the middle somewhere.
Right.
Now, I'm going to explain to the listeners some pretty intense worldviews I have, and hopefully, Devin, you can pull me back and bring some rationality into my cranium here.
I'm here for you.
But my wife, we've been married now for almost 20 years, and if I cheat on my wife, which I have not done, but if I did, just a little. Let's just say I went on a few dates with a secretary. A few dates with a lady I knew. A few dates. Okay, just a few. At what point am I cheating on my wife?
The first one.
Yeah,
The first one. The very first
You
one.
guys are so harsh. Now, if I am walking towards you right now, I'm walking towards you, how many steps backwards can I take before I'm walking the other direction?
One.
So you have distraction or traction. Either A, government is for you or against you.
Right.
Now, I have read this controversial book, these controversial documents, these controversial things called the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, these very controversial documents that our founding fathers put together that talked about how basically we have the right to pursue, not the right to have, by the way, but the right to pursue life, liberty, happiness, the pursuit of happiness. We're not guaranteed happiness. Government cannot guarantee us happiness.
Right.
But we have the pursuit to pursue happiness. We have the freedom to pursue happiness. So I want to talk about this idea, regulation. So regulation, you've made it easier to do business in Broken Arrow, and I've heard this from so many business owners, not just Aaron Antis, but I have just his approval right now to mention his name on the show. So Aaron says, well, listen, it's so much easier to do business in Broken Arrow because of Mayor Craig Thurmond. Now I want to talk about treating citizens like valued customers. Mm-hmm. In certain cities, Tulsa, when you call certain organizations, we'll call it the City of Tulsa, there are certain times you can be treated as though you're an annoyance. It's like, geez, you should have known. Ignorance is no excuse. You should have known. Why would you not know, you silly, silly business owner, you silly citizen? But in Broken Arrow, I have heard from many business owners, some of which we've had on the show, who've told me directly that it is so refreshing to call the city of Broken Arrow and to ask questions because they don't shame you for having a question. They don't attack you for being ignorant. They don't.
Right.
They actually treat the citizens as though they are valued customers. Can you please explain to me your worldview on how we should be dealing with the citizens of Broken Arrow when they call and have sincere questions? Because it starts at the top, and I want you to share with our listeners your worldview about how our concerned citizens should be treated when they call their local city.
I think first, ignorance is lack of knowledge. So the fact that someone doesn't know how a city operates or doesn't have a knowledge of a question, there's nothing wrong with that. So we have the opportunity to educate them and let them know this is how you do it. This is how the process works. So I think that you have to treat citizens. They're all customers. We're working on taxpayer dollars. Everyone that works for the city and the people that do get paid, they only get paid because the citizens allow them to have that money. So it's all taxpayer dollars. It's very important to be open and transparent. And we just actually last week started a new website because it's important that we stay current and people can get on the website. And
what is that
out.
website?
It's brokenarrowok.gov is the city website, and they try to make it more easy to navigate and easier for citizens to find out information. So it's important that we continue to do that, and we continue to answer questions for people and have answers for them. And sometimes they don't like the answer they get, but as long as that answer is consistent, it's always the same. It's important that we answer those questions for the citizens.
Now, one thing I've noticed that you've done a very good job of is you've done a very good job of being transparent about spending.
Right.
Where you're spending, how you're spending, who you're spending money with. This is very important. And I would encourage everybody out there. We have 500,000 listeners, so we have people that are listening right now in Boise, Idaho, Manhattan, New York, people in Satellite Beach, Florida, people in Los Angeles, people in Edmonton, Canada. And we have so many listeners all over the world. But I want to applaud you. I want to applaud you for leading the way. That's my applaud button right there, the applaud button, for really leading the way and creating a transparent way for listeners, for citizens, for the people who you serve to know how you're spending money. Yeah. Please explain how you've done this, where people right now are listening. They want to know where they can see this transparency. Tell us about this.
We have a software that we use called OpenGov. And so everything is put on the website under OpenGov that you can see every shovel we buy, every gallon of gas cops put in their car. Everything is so we know where every dime goes. Because, again, it's taxpayers' dollars. It's not.
And where can they go to
money.
see that? Where can they go to see that?
On the website, OpenGov. There should be a link to OpenGov on the website, and you should be able to go see a budget.
Got it.
On exactly what we're doing. So it's really important that again, as I said, it's not our money. It's the taxpayers' money, And so we need to make sure that we spend it prudently and they can see how we're spending it.
I think that anybody listening out there with a sound mind right now is saying, really? You actually track where money's being spent? You're telling us you do this. You guys do this right now, currently.
Right.
Was this occurring before you became mayor?
No, it's something we've probably been doing now about 3 to 4 years.
Why did you spearhead this idea to do this?
Well, I first saw OpenGov at a National League of Cities conference that I was at, and they talked to people that had it, and there were several cities around the country that were doing it. We're the only city in the state of Oklahoma that's doing it.
Wait! You said you're the only. See, you're like the reverse hype man. You are a humble guy, and it's my job to on this show. Bring up the truth in a way that is going to hopefully illuminate our listeners to the facts here. You said you're the only city in what?
In the state of Oklahoma that uses OpenGov, yes.
Seriously?
No
No other city?
other city does it.
Why?
Well, for one, it costs money, and it took us a year just to get all our information in there. Now, to update it, we have someone that constantly looks at it and updates it as we put our new budget in there.
Can I share with you a really terrible story, and maybe you could tell me how this is possible?
Yeah.
In the year 2007, I was named as the Entrepreneur of the Year for the state of Oklahoma, the Young Entrepreneur of the Year from the Small Business Administration.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think 2008, maybe 2009, I received an award from the U.S. Chamber as a Blue Ribbon Quality Award winner. And I was asked to come out to the Washington to meet my elected officials. And I'm not going to mention who they are. I can say Tom Coburn was one of the best people I've ever met. Tom Coburn, may he rest in peace. When I met him, I thought, that man is the kind of guy I want to be. He's the kind of father I want to be. He's the kind of business guy I want to be. Tom Coburn was great. Did you ever meet Tom Coburn?
Yes, several times. Yes.
Man, I love that guy. Yeah. He was great. I mean, he was great. But then they asked us to go out to dinner, and I said, "Cool." Not Tom Coburn, but it was a group that was sponsoring these awards.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a chance to meet a lot of elected officials from the great state of Oklahoma. And we went to the Palms restaurant. Have you been there?
Yes, I have. Yes.
How much is a meal at the Palms?
It's very expensive. I went there once, but it's very expensive.
Oh, dude, it was expensive.
Yes.
And I want to say it was really expensive. Now, Thrivers, just so you know this, I grew up in a family where we weren't rich. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad worked at Quick Trip and Domino's. There was a time in my life where I thought my own father hated me. True story. I thought my own father hated me because he delivered pizzas at Domino's and worked at Quick Trip and wasn't around me. And I didn't realize that although he had a college degree, he didn't know how to provide for us. And that's how he was doing it. Mm-hmm. So I thought my own father hated me. So I grew up where all the boxes were yellow. All of the boxes were yellow. All of the boxes, the generic brand. I grew up in a home where we would wonder, are we going to be able to pay the bills? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we knew we couldn't. One time, Jesus, or I'll call it a neighbor who has never admitted this, by the way, paid our mortgage for us. And he will not admit to this day that he paid it, but I know who he is, and he's a great, and we've talked about this. And so I'm telling you, I've grown up poor. I've grown up without money. I've lived that life. And when I went to the Palms restaurant, it was a menu, if I remember it right, it was dimly lit. It was in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I just remember at the end of it, I wanted to pay my part because I don't want to have someone else pay my share. That's my worldview. So I said, Vanessa and I will go ahead and pay. My wife and I, Vanessa and I, will go ahead and pay our share. How much is it? They showed me that receipt, and there was like 8 of us. And I want to say we were about $1,600 deep in that meal. And I hadn't sipped a glass of wine. I hadn't eaten a lot. It was like $1,600. And so the guy who invited me said, no, I'll take care of it. I want you to know this, Thrivers. This is a thing, and maybe the mayor can verify these kind of things. He says, I got it, guys. Taxpayers got it. That's what he says. Taxpayers got it. Joking. It's hard for me to even fake laugh about it because it's like it was so hideous to watch it. So he goes, don't worry, I got it, guys. Taxpayers got it. And I remember saying to myself, inner dialogue, like, what is the... So we get out of the dinner, and I'm walking with this man, and my wife is behind me, and it's just me and this man who is an elected official. And I said, hey, He'd had a few glasses of wine, by the way, because he had paid for the meal and he'd had glasses of wine. And he said, hey, I said, hey, can I ask you, like, who paid for that? He goes, oh, the people, you know, we're elected officials, you know, they're taking care of it. It's all good. And I said, you mean you spent $1,600 on a meal? I didn't even want this meal. I could have just I could have had like a Happy Meal. He said, well, Clay, we want to celebrate you for the success you've had, you know? Now, let me tell you who didn't talk during that dinner. Me. The entire dinner, they were talking about this and that, and at no point did they ask me how I'm doing. They didn't ask me about how I could, ideas that I had to grow businesses. They just talked. A lot of bread, a lot of, what do you call it? Boulanger, they call it. They have a lot of the hors d'oeuvres, the wine, and they were spending like it was like the last day on earth. And I said, how do you like resolve that in your mind? Like, how do you not feel bad? And he says, well, it's just everybody does it. I mean, it's just what you do. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just, and he didn't have any moral qualms with it at all. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. Have you, and I'm not asking for specific names, but since you've been mayor, have you seen extravagant, wasteful spending? Have you seen spending that was wasteful and or extravagant? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I think it's not uncommon.
It's disturbing.
Where people spend money and we had a system where used to, if you went somewhere, you traveled somewhere, you just brought your receipts back and the city paid you back for wherever you ate. And so we had a counselor who's no longer in the council anymore that took a limo and got drinks and spent a lot of money. So we started a thing, and I really pushed this hard where we start getting per diem. So, as you know, you've been to D.C., you've been to those expensive restaurants, and I think D.C. is about $60 a day. Well, you might get one meal for $60 in D.C. if you're lucky. But it's better that way because we get a per diem for going to wherever we go, and then we, if we want to eat somewhere nice, and we pay the difference out of our own pocket. And I think that's what, instead of just spending taxpayer dollars, however you want to spend them. But a lot of people do that, and
it was crazy. I honestly felt guilty. Mm-hmm. I felt bad. I felt violated.
Right. Because you're a taxpayer.
Right.
It's your money that they're spending.
It was alarming to me.
Right.
How much was being spent. Now, other things that we did talk about, if I could share with you what we talked about during the dinner. At the time, there was a lot of controversy in America about whether the college bowl system for college football, whether the bowl system should continue as it was.
Or have playoffs.
Right. And at the time, Orrin Hatch, I believe, who's an elected official from maybe Utah. Is he from Utah?
He's from Utah, yes. He's still there.
Okay. He gave a speech about the importance of moving to a playoff system. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa. When you're around people who are asking small business owners what they want to do to improve the economy, and they're talking about the playoff system, which is the only thing I haven't discussed at all as a business owner, it let me know like how out of touch most elected officials are.
Right.
So why I like you is that you work for free and you're in favor of transparency. Now, if I had heard that you were just working for free and were not in favor of transparency, I wouldn't like you.
You would wonder what I was getting.
Yeah, that's what I would wonder.
Right. And that's one thing, too, that we've started, too, is that you can't buy alcohol on city money.
Come on.
If you get your per diem,
there we go.
You can't spend any of that for alcohol.
There it is.
That's because that's entertainment. That's not subsistence. That's entertainment.
Wait. You're saying that's entertainment.
I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't drink, so I don't know. But I used to. But when I drank, it was for entertainment.
Okay. So regulation, you're in favor of minimizing it. Treating citizens like valued customers, you're in favor of celebrating that. Mm-hmm. Transparency, you're in favor of showcasing that. Kindness in communication. Kindness in communication. Now, I'm going to share something with you that's probably going to be divisive and offensive, and you probably won't like it. And we're going to work through this here. I have looked at how you brought the Bass Pro Shop to Broken Arrow, and I am in favor of it. I've looked at how you brought the Warren Theater to Broken Arrow, and I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of what you've done with our downtown. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of the growth you've brought to our city. I'm in favor of your transparency in spending. I'm in favor of your worldview. I serve the same God that you serve. I'm in favor of the way you treat your family. But I am not in favor of everything you've ever done. Not everything. And I'm not in favor of everything I've ever done. Or everything that anybody's ever done.
Right.
But there's a certain kindness that one should exude. A certain Christ-like behavior, I think that would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see you attacking other mayors, but I see you being attacked by other mayors. And I'm not asking you what mayors are attacking you. I'm just saying I see this happen. So talk to me about your worldview. Get us into your brain as it relates to your worldview on kindness in communication.
Well, I think that all of us, as you said, we've got to be a reflection of heaven. So we've got to treat people the way we want to be treated. Which is really the golden rule in the Bible. We got to treat people the way we want to be treated. So when it comes to communication, we need to communicate with people kindly. We have quite a department in our city that does communications. We have someone that does videography. We have someone that writes copy for us. We have someone that does all of our social media. So all that works together so we can get that communication out to the citizens through whatever method they want their communication. But also, as I said, when someone calls in, we've got to be kind. No matter what. Recently, we've had people call and just cuss at our staff about they didn't agree with something we were doing. Well, staff's answer is, "Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'll take your message." That's really all they can do. You got to treat people with kindness. And a lot of times, when you treat people kindly, they finally realize that they're not being very kind themselves. And they start being a lot kinder in what they have to say and how they communicate.
I feel like somebody out there in the Broken Arrow area, they're thinking about how does my vote really even matter? I mean, does my vote even really matter? Is it worth the time and the effort to actually get out there and vote? And I would say yes. Why? Because you've seen from the from the White House down to the governors of each state, you've seen how one governor can dramatically impact the lives of his citizens. You've seen how one president can dramatically impact the lives of his citizens. You've seen how one mayor can dramatically impact the lives of his citizens. And I'd like for you to share, when is this next election? And why can the people who are passionate about having a government that is for them not be idle? Why do we need our concerned listeners to go ahead and get out their phone and put it in their calendar to mark out the date, to put the calendar reminder in their phone right now, to block out the date and to make sure that they actually show up to vote? Why is it so critically important for your citizens in Broken Arrow to show up to vote?
Well, that date is April 6, 2021, and it's very important that people vote. When we look at, out of 115,000 citizens, we get about 6,000 people vote in a city council election.
You said out of how many?
Out of 115,000 citizens, we get about 6,000 that vote.
Wait a minute. How many citizens, Chief? How many citizens?
About 6,000. So about a little over 3,000 people can decide for you what your government's going to be. So I know my first election was in 2001, and I won by 63 votes.
5%. 5% of our population voted.
About 5% of our population votes.
Oh,
and,
Billy, I need to. If it's okay, I need to throw up real quick. You're saying 5%?
5%.
And you won by how many votes?
By 63 votes, the first election.
This cannot be more critical. You're saying you won by 63 votes.
By 63 votes.
Wow.
So it's really important that people get out and vote because, we had someone that was really a good counselor that's going to be on our show eventually, I think, and he lost because so many people said, well, I thought everyone else was going to go vote. How did he lose? Well, it's because you didn't go vote. And everyone I talked to said, well, I thought he was going to win. He had it hands down. He was doing such a good job. Well, they didn't go vote. And they thought everyone else was going to do it for them.
Yep.
And the reality is that the one privilege that we have as American citizens is that privilege of voting, and
people died for that right.
Right. And
people died for that.
And if you don't care enough to vote, it's hard for you to complain about your community when you don't even vote. But quite often people will come to you and tell you that,
Yep.
I don't like this, I don't like that, but I would never vote. And it's like, well, if you don't like something or if you do like something, either way, you should go vote and express that opinion.
Mayor Craig Thurmond, I appreciate your transparency. I appreciate your willingness to hop on here and to hop inside the dojo of Mojo and answer questions sometimes that are maybe not the most comfortable, maybe questions sometimes that are a little bit, maybe questions you've never been asked before, but maybe you wanted to have asked, but you haven't had them asked before. I appreciate you hopping inside a show where listeners can see the real you. They can, and a lot of our people are reaching out to us with additional questions they want me to ask you. So if people want to reach out to you directly, what's the best way to reach out with you? If they want to get in touch with you and ask you some questions, or your staff, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, there's two ways. If you want to talk to staff, you go to brokenerok.gov.
Yep.
And if you want to talk to me, the best way really is to get on MayorCraigThurmond.com.
MayorCraigThurmond.com.
And listen and ask whatever question you want then. But that's really the best way to get a hold of me and talk to me or exchange ideas with me. It's really a good way to do it.
In a world of where political corruption is the norm, I appreciate you for being unusual, for being extraordinary, for being a sincere person. And on behalf of my wife and my kids and I and the people that have chosen to call Broken Arrow home for a long time, thank you for doing that. And we're going to end this show with a boom, as we always do. And so now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom.
Boom.